Sometimes when we're communicating in work life or personal life, we can have difficult conversations that can maybe turn into a situation where the other person gets a bit defensive. And when that happens, it's usually because they feel a bit threatened. Maybe they're a bit embarrassed. Maybe they don't have the information that they need. And so there's a bit of sort of frustration coming out. And sometimes it can even just be their ego just coming into the situation to protect them. Now, what's important to recognize is having difficult conversations is really key as someone who's trying to lead themselves and get things done and be as productive as possible. So, wouldn't it be great to be able to diffuse that situation so the other person was able to feel less threatened and stop being as defensive? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you my Triple H formula. And no, I'm not talking about the wrestler from the early 2000s. What I'm talking about here is a method that you can use. It's tried and tested. So the next time someone's getting defensive and that's not what you wanted from the situation, you can refer to the Triple H formula to help you and them to feel way less intense about everything and arrive at a productive and positive outcome for everybody. So let's get into it. So when we're in a conversation with someone and they start getting a bit defensive, the first thing that we need to do as the person that can take control of the situation, lead ourselves and others, is allow that person to feel heard. We can slow things right down and we can say something like this. Okay, so how do you see it? Or we might say something like, so tell me, what do you think about this? Now, please know, when you are attempting for the other person to feel heard, when they're given the chance to speak, initially, they might come out with some words that are a little bit attacky. But we've got to be able to understand that's part of the process. As leaders, we've got to be able to go, okay, that's fine. Like, they're just verbal punches. They don't mean anything. That's just frustration. It's ego. It's protection. It's not necessary because we're going to arrive at a place of positive outcomes. So you've got to take that. And it can be hard because you want to retaliate. The last thing you want to do is feel like you're being attacked, right? But it's actually okay. You've got to rise above that. Allow the other person to feel heard, accept the words for what they are, and the other person will eventually level out once they know that they aren't really being attacked by you. It's almost like they'll throw some verbal punches, expecting you to punch them back, but when you don't, they feel a lot more at ease. So allow the other person to feel heard. That's the first thing, and it's probably the hardest thing that you need to do. But once you've done this, it makes the next thing even easier. When you're in a conversation with someone and they start getting defensive, the second thing that we want to do, and the second H in our Triple H formula, is we want to bring honesty to the forefront of our conversation. Now, it's a two-way process, so we need to approach this with a question that we can ask and also a way that we can set up our honest viewpoint. So first, here's a question that you can ask to bring this honesty into play. You can ask something like this. What is your honest take on this situation? When you present it in a really positive way, when you present it in a productive way, honesty can help us move forwards. So what's your honest take on this situation? Then the flip side of that is how you present your view. So you can say something like, thank you for sharing that with me. Honestly, this is how I see it. Or you might say, my honest view on it is this. And that way, what you've done is you've led the conversation to exchange these honest opinions, these honest views of a situation. So the person's gone from being defensive, thinking that you're attacking them, to now being able to share in a safe way, and there can't be any judgment, their honest view, their honest take. Because really, if you do want to lead this conversation forwards, there's no point in holding back. You've got to get all that information out after the emotion has eventually settled. And this can help you to do that. And it also means that our third H really sets us up for success. So when you're having a conversation with someone and they got a bit defensive, but you managed to allow them to feel heard, you then brought your honest views into the conversation. So you both felt like you were sharing what you really felt and thought about the situation. You then, as a leader, are able to help the other person. So the third H is helped. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can either ask what else can I do to help you? You can do it that way, or you can simply check for confirmation. You can say, hey, just help me understand what else is there that we need to talk about, or before we finish this conversation, just help me understand where are you at right now. So it's like a checking in question. Help me understand where you're at right now. The third way that we can help the other person is we can have a suggestion already, like a solution that we've already thought about, and we can ask them, how helpful would it be if I was to do that? Which can be a real statement of intent. And when you think about the journey that you can go on in this conversation where someone's got defensive and then it's turned into a reality where you're actually there saying, look, how can I help you? Or how helpful would it be if I did this? That will completely change the way that the other person feels about this whole thing. Providing that you stick to the HHH formula, that doesn't mean doing wrestling moves. That means you have to make sure they're heard, then be honest and helped. And that's the final part of this. But before we finish for the video, remember everybody's different. So now let's take a little look at different personality styles and how we can best approach people depending on how they are in everyday life. So now you know the HHH formula. We can now take it one step further by understanding some tendencies that certain personalities might have when they feel like they need to be defensive, when they feel like they're being attacked. So a dominant personality, well, they're probably going to be the most visual, the most verbal when they feel like, they need to be defensive. They'll probably say things that are a bit tacky towards you. They might even change their posture and tone and come across quite aggressive. Those people, we can just match them with the same level of intensity, but without attacking. We can say things like, look, I can tell that you're not quite right with this. So please, what is it that I've missed here? What is it that you want to say? And we can go straight to that heard section, that first H, by doing it that way. Less words, more direct. That's how to handle a dominant person. Someone who is an I style and influencer style personality, bit of a people person, well, these guys and girls would appreciate not making this a personal thing. So saying something like, look, this has got nothing to do with what I think about you as a person, but it does sound like you're not quite right with this. So what is it that we need to talk about? Or we might say something like, look, you and me, we get on, we've worked together for a long time. What is it that I've missed here? So it just makes it a little softer for that person, because the last thing that they want is to fall out with you. So when you make sure that that's not possible, it's just about problem solving, it can help them feel a little bit more at ease. An S-style personality, or a steady person, they tend to just want harmony, and they might be a little bit less verbal and visual when they feel like they're being defensive. They might just stop answering questions and give very short answers and maybe kind of go into themselves a little bit. So creating a safe environment is important. And you might be able to do that there and then by saying things like, look, it's all good. We're going to figure this out. So what is it that we need to talk about? What is it that you need to say? Allow them to be heard. Remember the H. But one thing we can do with an S-style steady personality is we can take this conversation and we can have it another time. So we might be able to say something like, look, this doesn't feel like we're going to get to where we need to get to today. But look, let's go away and think about what we need to think about, and we can talk again tomorrow. But you'll know your people better than I will. So if you feel like that person needs a bit more space, that's something that you can do. Now, a C-style person, conscientious personality, well, these guys and girls, they need data, they need evidence, and they're very objective. They can be pretty skeptical. So if they're feeling defensive, it's probably that they've got something lined up, like a big old hook of data, some evidence that suggests that what you're saying might not be right, or that what they've got is important for you to understand, which is why they're getting a bit defensive. They've seen something maybe that you haven't. And so with those guys and girls, we can approach it from that same angle and say, look, what information have you got that I don't? Help me understand that. And that can help them feel heard, but in a way that's really going to let them show everything that they know. Because if they're getting defensive, trust me, they know something probably quite important. So providing them the platform to give you that information safely is within your interests, and allow them to feel heard as soon as you possibly can using data. So look, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I love sharing this stuff with you, and I do it all the time. So if you fancy sticking about for more videos like this one, hit subscribe. If you've enjoyed it to the point where you want to leave me a comment, then please do. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again in the next one.